How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to go over some of the best ways to make gold in New World with the mining trade skill. But first, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps out massively. Now, let's get into it. This is a series in which I will go through all of the trade skills in New World and show you some of my favorite ways to utilize the skill to make gold off of it. I'll try to keep the methods varied and not too basic to keep things interesting. Last time out, we looked at the tracking and skinning skill. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked in the video description and at the end of this video. But this time, we're going to be going over the mining skill. The methods I chose for this video are ones I've used frequently over the years. So I'll first go over what it is you'll be doing in them, where I like to go to do them, how much I manage to gather in a set period of time at said locations, and the profits you can expect based on prices in your server. But like with every gold making method, I need to add the disclaimer that prices vary in every server, so make sure that you check that the method is profitable in your server before trying it. At the start of every method, I'll give you the big ticket items you'll be farming, along with how much they are currently going for in the Fresh Start server Hudson Land, so you can see how much per hour will be made, and then just change the numbers based on prices in your server to see how much you can expect from each method in your server. Also, I'll be doing all of these methods utilizing a variety of trade skill efficiency techniques. Explaining each technique in every video made the videos very long, so instead, I put together a separate video guide on all the ways you can maximize trade skill efficiency. That video will be linked now, and at the end of this video as well. So if you want to be as efficient as possible while out on your runs, check out that video next. To calculate the gold per hour numbers for each method, I did the runs using all of the techniques mentioned in that video, but with slightly less than BIS bags, and not being PvP flagged, in case any of you don't like PvPing. And all the prices to calculate the results are based on the Hudson Land Fresh Start server. But now that we've gone over all the disclaimers, let's get started with the methods. First, we have method number 1, which is great for players of all levels, and that's stone farming. What makes this method so great, despite the tier of resource being so low, is that not many people actually mine stone. They go after the flashier looking ores, and forget to mine boulders as they blend in more and seem to be less valuable. That's not the case though. With the minimal amount of people farming this resource, and the heavy need for it in the stone cutting skill, the price of stone tends to be higher than you'd expect in most servers. As you'll see in my main server Valhalla, which is a legacy server, stone is selling for 0.40 coins per, whereas a top tier ore like mithril ore will only get you 0.15 coins per, and it's a lot harder to find. But now that we know what we're after, and why we're after it, let's check out my favorite spot to farm stone, and that's over in this area in Marnock's Bluff. Simply teleport into the Heraeth Shrine, run a bit north, and your farm can begin. As you'll see on screen, there's tons more resources you can be gathering along with the stone to really up your profit numbers, but for the sake of this video, I'll only be focusing on stone while grinding, to keep the numbers as accurate as possible. Stone prices are currently all over the place in the Hudson Land Fresh Start server, but 0.40 coins per is the lowest currently going, so we'll go with that, considering that's pretty much the same it goes for in my main server. Stone will be the big ticket item you'll be getting from this grind. You could also add nuts and iron ore to that if you wanted to, if they have any value in your server. Nuts are currently 0.48 per, and iron ore is 0.35 per in Hudson Land, but like previously mentioned, I'll be ignoring them for accuracy's sake. So I went and got all buffed up, and got to grinding. This is a really great and relaxing grind that's perfect for when you want to relax, make a bit of gold on the side as well, with some videos up on the second monitor. There's more than enough stone spawns to endlessly farm this area, especially considering their quick respawn rates, and the need to bank your load every once in a while due to the high amounts of weight you'll be bringing in. 30 minutes of stone farming later, I was left with 12,312 stones, 210 motes, and 88 slivers of adderstone, which is an amazing return. This is another reason why I love this grind so much. Your inventory by the end isn't full of a bunch of different items, making it really quick and easy to put everything up on the trading post to sell. And when I did put everything up, I managed to bring in a whopping 5,148 coins for the 30 minutes I spent farming, with 4,925 coins of that coming from selling stone, 210 coins coming from selling the motes, which go for roughly 1 gold each in my server, and a minimum of 13 gold from the adderstone. That would mean, by farming here, with similar prices in your server, you could stand to make over 10,000 coins per hour. That's not even taking into account the aptitude crates I got while out grinding, which would just add on to the profits even more, especially if I was lucky enough to pick up a piece of mining gear. This is by far one of my favorite methods to take advantage of whenever I feel like mining. What if stone prices aren't looking great in your server? Then I've got you covered with another great option with method number 2. My next favorite method to use is a lot more interactive, as you'll be combining mining with combat to really maximize your gains, and that's glob farming. You've probably heard me mention this method before, that's because it's a good one, but this time out, we're focusing more on the mining side of things versus the mob farming. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is running in circles around this small area in Brimstone Sands called Castrum Victualis. First, clear the mobs around the Orichalcum, and then mine them all up and repeat the process. As seen on screen, There's tons of large orichalcum veins here to be mined, and that's the main big ticket item you're after. But also, the second item you're after is an item called an ancient glob of ectoplasm. These globs can drop from all the mobs in the area, and they tend to hold good value in most servers. Also, if food glyphs sell for good money in your server, you'll stand to make a fortune here. There's tons of other resources around here you could grab as well while farming the area out, including chests, sandstone, iron ore, star metal ore, and even dye materials that will just stack onto your profits. But for the sake of numbers, to keep it as accurate as possible, I'm going to avoid all of them and just stick to the mobs and orichalcum. To get here though, you're going to want to teleport into the Worm Sign Obelisk fast travel point in Brimstone Sands and head west to Castrum Victualis. Once here, just get to grinding. Because I was mainly interested in getting orichalcum, I made sure to do this grind solo, so no one else will get the ore veins. If there were other people here, grouping up and grinding with them will most likely lead to similar profits. You might not get as much orichalcum ore by the end of the grind, but you'll have more globs from killing the mobs, which should even out over the long run. Also, it may take a bit of trial and error to find out how comfortable you are with how many mobs you can pull, depending on your skill level and build, when you're here soloing. Some of the elite mobs and the Cyclops can hit pretty hard, so just take a bit of time to get used to it before pulling all the mobs at once. As you get better, or if you're in a group, you can run around the area on your mount, pulling all the mobs into one spot and mowing them all down at once. Now, let's look at the results. After 30 minutes of grinding here, I managed to pull in all of this loot. It's worth noting that I made sure to farm here only when there was no one else around, to maximize my orichalcum, at the cost of getting more mob kills. If I was in a group, I could have tons more globs and gold drops from killing mobs, but my group mates might have mined some of the ore veins as well. When it comes to how you want to go about it, you should decide if you want to solo farm this, or group farm it depending on the prices of the big ticket item in your server. But I went ahead and listed up everything I'd gotten in this period on the trading post. Because orichalcum was so low in Hudson Land, at only 0.08 coins per, and in my main server Valhalla, it goes for 0.29 per, I decided to look at how much I'd stand to earn in both servers, and surprisingly enough, it was pretty much exactly the same. This is because of 4 main items. For starters, there's the orichalcum ore, but then, there's also the globs. In my main server, globs go for 240 per, whereas in Hudson Land, they go for 160 per. Then, there's the food glyphs, which is where Hudson Land got a massive boost, as they go for 85 gold per, whereas in my main server, they go for only 2 coins per. And finally, there's Cinnabar, which goes for roughly the same price in both servers, at 7.7 gold per. There was a couple other items that added a little bit more onto the gold per hour numbers, but not a massive amount. In total, after listing everything, I managed to bring in 2,980 gold. That means if I was to farm here, I could be making roughly 6,000 gold per hour. And that's not even taking into account the gold I made from salvaging the gear I got, the gold from the monster kills, or the gold I could stand to make from the aptitude crates. Another massive factor that could really get these numbers up is if I were to gather all of the other resources around the area as well, but again, I avoided them to keep the numbers consistent. But if you're not into farming stone or orichalcum, I got one more method for you, and that's the sandstone method. This is another really simple method that will only see you focusing on one big ticket item, and that's sandstone blocks. Of course, like with other methods, if you gather everything else you see as well, including the elite chests, you can stand to make a ton more. But you're mainly focusing on the blocks for this method, and if your stone cutting is high enough, you can even convert them into charged sand as well at the end, for possible extra profits. Essentially, what we'll be doing on this grind is just running around Brimstone Sands, looking for these sandstone block spawns. Brimstone is full of these spawns, but there's 2 places in particular I love to go for this. For starters, I like teleporting into the Worm Sign Obelisk fast travel point, and doing a quick lap around here, gathering all the sandstone that's up. The first few times you do this, you might want to have a picture of the map up on the side, but after a while, it'll become second nature to you where they all spawn, and even just running all over the zone will still see you getting good profit per hour numbers. Once I've finished up here though, I like to teleport all the way northeast, up to the Great Shrine of Thoth, and do a big lap around the oasis, hugging the cliff sides. Then, I just teleport back to my main spot, and repeat the process. If you find the sandstone taking longer to respawn than it takes you to do each spot, you can incorporate a third zone into your rotation as well. As you can see on screen, you have lots of potential options for this, but I find, especially if you're grabbing chests and other good resources while in your runs, you can make do with just 2 spots. Also, make sure to swing your camera from side to side while running around, and keep an eye on your radar for sandstone blocks, as the desert is vast, and the stones can blend into the sand, so sometimes you might miss one. Now, let's look at the results. I ran around Brimstone, in the spots I previously mentioned, for 30 minutes, only focusing on the sandstone nodes, and ended up with all this loot. Unfortunately for me, Hudson Land prices for sandstone were significantly lower than my main server of Valhalla, and were only worth 4 coins per. In Valhalla, I could get double that at 8 coins per. Once I had put everything up on the trading post though, I managed to bring in 1,260 coins in Hudson Land, with 1,236 of that coming from the sandstone blocks. That's a measly 2,520 coins per hour, but if I was in Valhalla, I would have done significantly better at 5,000 gold per hour. That's a lot more respectable, so check prices before you go out farming. Also, grabbing all the elite chests around Brimstone Sands and other resources while out on my run would have also significantly raised the profit per hour. Now, if you have 245 stone cutting, you can also take this one step further and turn all of your sandstone blocks into charged sand, like previously mentioned. Each charged sand will require 5 sandstone blocks and 1 obsidian sandpaper, but it will also sell for significantly more. Make sure to double check that it is profitable in your server before trying it though. For me, I calculated that it would cost me 28 gold to convert everything I got out of the grind, but it would in fact end up being profitable for me to do so. Let's look at the profits from Valhalla though, since that's a much more respectable number. Currently, charged sand sells for 35 coins per over there. The 5,000 coins I would have made in the hour of grinding, if I just sold it straight up, would in turn rise up to 6,620 coins when converted into charged sand. That's a free 1,600 coins for a few seconds of work. Along with that, you get the stone cutting XP, which will give you aptitude crates, which will just raise your profits even more. You do want to take a couple of things I mentioned in my trade skill efficiency guide into consideration though, to make sure this ends up being a profitable process. 1. Having stone cutting gear will help you get a lot more bonus charged sand, and 2. Making sure your faction owns Weaver's Fen Fort for the plus 10% global refining yield will help out a lot as well. If you want to learn more about that, the guide will be linked at the end of the video. But all in all, this is a very fun method that you can combine with chest runs or gathering of other materials for really good profits while out exploring Brimstone Sands. Now, before we end this video, let me just quickly go over a few disclaimers for the previous methods that I calculated gold per hour numbers on. For starters, with every method, the final earnings numbers needs to have a few notes along with them. The number is calculated without taking into account the trading post tax, so there's a bit of profit loss there, and it doesn't account for proficiency boosting potions and trade skill food costs. However, it also doesn't account for the added bonuses of aptitude crates, Azoth, and skill leveling items. So if you're converting your Azoth into materials as you're nearing cap, you'll get more gold from that. Plus, after grinding, when you turn your skilling items into XP, you'll stack up tons of aptitude crates to go along with the ones you get while out on your grinds, which when opened, will just stack up the profits by a ton, especially if you manage to get a trade skill gear pattern, so those will more than cover for the trade post and consumable costs over the long run. Also, it's worth noting with all methods that it's worth looking into refining your resources instead of just selling them right away raw. It will require a good amount of math based on prices, which will differ from server to server, but it's worth seeing if it's more profitable to sell your resources raw or refine them before selling them if you want to really maximize profits. I like to just refine no matter what, even if technically you may lose a bit of gold, because the XP you get leads to aptitude crates, which will more than likely make up for the losses in the long run, plus I like to see my aptitude levels rising. That covers some of the best ways to make gold with the mining skill in New World. Have you tried any of these? Or what are some of your favorite ways to make gold with this trade skill? Let me know in the comments below. And if the video was of any help to you, please consider giving the video a like and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, have a good one. Thanks for watching another video, and a massive shout out to all the channel members and patrons seen on screen now. Links on how to become one in the video description. If you'd like to learn how to maximize your trade skill efficiency while out on your runs, click on the video to the left. Or, if you'd like to learn how to make gold with other trade skills, click on the playlist to the right.